World Financial Group offers entrepreneurs from all backgrounds the opportunity to start their own business on a level playing field. Dr. Yana Woodhouse, receiving the WCM Wall Street Pioneer Award by the United Black Wall Street of America, Inc., is one of those entrepreneurs.
I see WFG and TFA as a place where African Americans with an entrepreneurial mindset can flourish. And the bonus, we help families and serve the communities across the country.
To learn more about us, go to worldfinancialgroup.com.
We are the sons and daughters of the soul. We are resilient and forever forward-thinking. We ask for nothing else than the opportunity to live and to create the lives that we were meant to live. We want nothing but an equal chance at options and possibilities. The same possibilities and options to live out our potential as our fellow man. We want to be heard, understood, and expressive in our reality. We are the future. We are the creative. We are here.
This is Kia Rogers, and you're listening to Urbanology with my dad, Tony Rogers, on WHCR 90.3 FM New York.
Hey, what's happening? What's
Good afternoon. Tony Rogers here, your host for Urbanology, the Art of War. I hope all is well. We are starting to wind down. I got eating on my mind. We're in the process of winding down Black History Month. And as I always say, Black history is American history because the diaspora has been in so many different components that have made America great. One of the interesting things that I appreciate by having the opportunity to be a host on this particular show is that you can bring many people who are doing so many different things to the attention of those who may not know who or where they are or what they're doing. And for me, this summer, one of the coordinators, Dakota Pimpins, from the late night jazz group, invited me to a 3-day festival, I guess, jazz festival here in Harlem. And I was able to explore many different locations that I had no idea existed. One such place was a place that I've walked past 119th Street, and many lived on 122nd for a period of time. So sometimes walking home from a friend. But there's a club there. 623 is the name of it. And it's like the old speakeasies. We're talking about history of Harlem. And many years ago, speakeasies, places that were either in the homes of people or in the small locations where people would come and entertain. And it was such an interesting experience. The manager, Marcus, was such a gracious person, and he explained some of the things that we were talking about. So I told him that we're going to have to get you and the owner, Adrian, on the program at some point. I recently received an invitation about an interesting addition to the Room 623 family that we are going to talk about today. And I would like to have you give a warm welcome to one. Since it's Black History, and we're going to move into Women's History Month next week, in a sense. Uh, a businesswoman who's been involved in the restaurant business for some time. Many of you may remember B Square, which is there. I didn't know that there was a place under B Square, and the name has changed. I believe it's the Brunch Harlem restaurant now. But she also was the person who allowed for Marcus, who made sure that he understood the story, or I understood the story. Marcus had an idea of creating this type of speakeasy. So these are the two individuals that I would like to kind of give their story to you, and for you to begin to have a better understanding of some of the jewels that we have in the Harlem community. So please give a welcome to Adrian Ferguson and Marcus Goldbatter. How are you both doing?
Oh, we're great.
Great, Tony. Thanks for having us.
Well, so good to have you both on. Adrian, tell us about your restaurant. And then we're going to work our way down.
Okay, wonderful. So I heard you in your introduction in introducing uh, Brunch Harlem that was previously B Squared, that was previously Billy's Black. Um, and I say that because this is actually coming up on my 18th year in the restaurant industry, and it has been a blast. Marcus, in tangoing and introducing jazz into the mainstream in the fiber of the restaurant, it goes with along with what we were doing before Room 623. We had music in Billy's Black where we had indie artists. We've had everyone from Freddie Jackson to Angie Stone to Layla Hathaway. And this is just an evolving period where now we can offer jazz as the baseline for all of those genres of music. So the restaurant has been up and thriving and being reinvented, if you will, throughout the entire 18 years, thus giving us, a new and exciting palette um, to explore as we continue to move along.
And Adrian, you grew up in Harlem, right?
I am born and raised in Harlem, yes.
Well, uh, I'm just glad to, and we'll talk about some of that again as relates to some of the people. I grew up on Convent Avenue, right up the street from Music and Arts, so you know about some of the stories that
Oh,
has some
yeah. Oh, yeah.
connections to that. Now, Marcus, you're an entertainer. And uh, your personality is one that is very interesting, and it captured me before I even saw the room. We were talking on the outside, and some of the things, your enthusiasm about jazz and what was happening downstairs, and many of those things. Because actually, I was walking by. It wasn't, I was tired because I had gone to all of these clubs, and this was close to home. So I said, I'll walk by and take a look in, but I don't think I'm going to stay. But after talking to Marcus, I went down, and wow, it was a tremendous experience. And you're a wonderful entertainer. How did you guys get together? A restaurateur and a jazz singer.
Thanks again for giving us the opportunity here. I'll start with the big amount of gratitude, because I used to hang out in all these legacy clubs that don't exist anymore up here in Harlem. I've lived up here for a little over 24 years. And Lennox Lounge, Showman, St. Nick's Pub, Gin Fizz, all these clubs that don't, unfortunately, they're not open any longer. And I experienced them closing one after another. And when they closed, there was a vibe that closed along with them. And this was before the pandemic. And so I had always been looking to create some kind of jazz party vibe on a regular basis. I wanted it to be somewhere up in Harlem. I just didn't have a location. I was scouting around some spaces one late night holiday season in 2018. And I hung out in Harlem a lot over the past 24 years, and I had never really hung out too much on 119. And then I'm walking down the street, and I see these lights on the awning, and I was like, "What's that? That looks cute. Let me pop down the street." And sure enough, I'm gonna tell them, I saw this sign on the door, and it said, "Are you naughty?" And I was walking with a friend of mine. I went, "Well, yeah, sure, why not?" And so, and this is like 11:30 at night. I was like, what are the odds they'd be open? So the door was unlocked, but things were closing up upstairs. And so I just politely, I was like, "Hey, just checking in to say hi." I'd never seen this space. And then I met this very charming woman who was very gracious and said, "Well, what are y'all doing out? You guys want to have a drink, or, just what's going on? Happy holidays." And I told her what I was looking to do. And she explained, and if you haven't guessed right now, this is the woman I'm talking about right here. But she explained that as she said before, I used to do music upstairs, and I said, well, I'm looking to create space. I need a venue. I need some place that can really, like, with a stage, and I want to have a bandstand. I want to design a PA and create a vibe. And I explained, like, where I was coming from, and this unique Harlem experience that I just was disappearing, and it's needed to be preserved and, in my opinion, revitalized in whatever way was possible. And she said, well, I got a space downstairs. I said, great, I'll come back sometime when you're open, because this was closing time. So she said, well, how about now? And I was like, it's almost midnight.
Yeah, he got a little nervous.
I was like,
taking me in the basement. And
midnight going down into the cellar, right?
Oh, God, you never know. But fine, you can't resist that smile, and it was just it was beautiful. I came down to this space here where we're in right now, and there was no sign on the wall. There was a lot of like storage equipment, restaurant stuff, and it was cold, and it was just. But the wallpaper and the chandeliers and the mirrors, you could see there was a design element, and then I saw everything else. I just could see everything that I envisioned, right here before me. And so I said, "Oh, we need to talk. We need to." So we it was the end of the year. Fast forward to the beginning of the next year, we started chatting, and it was like, and we built out. I put a whole, proposal together of the idea, and she looked at me and she said, "This is great. How are you going to pay for it?" And I said, "How are you going to pay for it?" And so we both realized, we're like, okay, we got to figure this out. And then the story goes that a buddy of mine, who also is a Harlem historian who leads tours around Harlem, Gordon Plotnick, he had been double booked. He also produced over at Gin Fizz. He produced bands a lot and produced shows. Mm-hmm. He used to own his own jazz club, Easy's Woodshed. And so he called me up because I'd been telling him everything I was doing and my idea and what I was looking to do with a late night. I wanted to start a late night, Friday night vibe. And so he called me up in like I don't know, end of February, maybe around this time in 2019, and said, "Hey, how's your idea doing? I got a band booked, an audience paid for, but I got bumped off the schedule because they double booked me at Gin Fizz." And he's like, "Are you ready?" And we were not ready at all. We didn't have anything. We didn't have a PA. We didn't have a chair. We didn't have anything. And I told him, "Absolutely, we're ready. Absolutely." And so he brought in the audience, the band, the vibe, and it was great because then, we got to see it happen and feel it. Adrian was, drinking it all in, and then after that night, she's like, "All right, this is great. Let's do it again next week."
It really happened really organically.
Yeah.
A lot of times, God sends you what you need when you don't know you need it. So, it's like, okay, we got Gordon to get us the band. We got the room. I got Marcus. Let's make it happen.
It was all totally organic.
Yeah.
Adrian was behind the bar. I was working the door and sound and hosting. It was wild, but like we just both felt it, and then it was fast after that. Then it was like, because Adrian was like, "Let's do it again," and I was like, "Okay, I need, I got to book out like 6 months of bands and get the. We didn't have a website. We had to build all this stuff out online, and but everyone was loving the experience and the vibe, and it was all based in, revitalizing this legacy through positivity, inclusivity, diversity, respect, compassion, kindness, all these elements that I always felt naturally just being around the scene in Harlem. And it's that immersive community that is so, for me, in sync with what jazz to me allows for. And people really responded as we continued, and then of course our timing was amazing, as it turns out. We had 11 months to ride that wave, and we did. We added a couple of nights of the week, but then we of course had to close in March 2020, like everyone else. I just said to Adrian, "Let's keep talking, let's keep meeting. We don't know what's going to happen." And thankfully, we were able to reopen. It took us 18 months to do it safely. But we reopened, and then we've been open now ever since without having to close our doors. So we're we're a little over 2 years now, and it's been beautiful. The momentum has been great. The impact and relationships in the community and beyond. It's been very deeply honored and grateful to be a part of the Harlem community in this way.
Well, again, I'm happy that I was able to discover the location. And I was laughing because in order to get to room 623, you have to go downstairs. And in order to go downstairs, it's like going into an alley. So I can imagine when,
he was pretty nervous. Like, where are you
when
taking
Adrian said, "Let's go downstairs" at 12 o'clock at night. It's interesting because I felt the same way. I said, "Oh, we're going down the stairs. Where is the place here?" Because I had walked past it because I was looking for a club, and
that's what makes the speakeasy.
And it is exactly the way it used to be, from my understanding. Now, one of the things and one of the ways that I rediscovered you guys is because I received an email from Marcus. We were in connection with each other, so we did say that we were going to do that, and I'm glad that you kept my number and my email. And there's something special happening. So why don't you guys talk about this special addition to the club?
All right. I'll do it. Hey,
go you can start. Do it together.
Well, the thing that solidifies any jazz club is the initiation of a new piano. Marcus was doing crowdfunding to try to get a piano, and he kept sending out emails and talking to different people, and lo and behold, he got the response that he wanted but wasn't expecting, which was with a gentleman named Stuart Holland, who literally dedicated a brand new upright piano to room 623.
and Mr. Holland is also uh,
A
a,
Harlem.
a Harlemite, which is very interesting. Uh, and his family, matter of fact, that's when we were talking about music and art. Because you know uh, there's some connections there because I believe it was at his it was his sister or
Uh-huh.
one of the family members went to music and art, and I thought that was interesting because I live right down the block from music and art. Matter of fact, I was supposed to go to music and art. I had one of the teachers in music and art on Convent Avenue was an art teacher. He would see my art, and he said, you can go to music and art. I can get you in." But my friends on the block said, "Nah, man, don't go to high school where your parents can walk across the street to go to. You, you need to get away. You go to George Washington. That's a big bus, you can," which was probably, I'm glad that I am where I am today, but if I had to go back, I would wonder whether I did that because that took me into some interesting paths that has allowed for me to be who I am. But wow, they were interesting. But nevertheless, all things happen for a reason. The meeting Marcus was a wonderful experience. And this was made for you because as I saw you doing the hosting and doing the singing and bringing on the talent, I could see, I'm sure that's probably why Adrian invested in you. I could see that this was you. It was not something that uh, sometimes all things happen for a reason, and there's a bigger scheme of things that sometimes we don't even know about. But we are, I guess, as Shakespeare once said, we're, just actors, on the stage of life, and you are there. That this is something that I can, in my mind, and what I see is that you were born to be able to do what you're doing. And Adrian, we have to talk about your restaurant
Oh
because
yeah.
to be able to be in the restaurant business for as long as you have, you were born to do that too. That's not
But
because that's a hard business to be
yeah,
with. So you guys,
that's the will of God. I mean, yeah, I grew up in the kitchen with my grandmother, so I learned how to cook from her. But in my early 20s, I loved to travel, and that kind of honed my skills and my palate in what I wanted to offer. So initially, in opening the restaurant, the food under Billy's Black was um, mostly of what I knew, which was soul food, and I mean all of the things that are not good for you um, were were on the plate, and then in evolving and trying to be more conscious and more responsible. In 2016, I decided that in part of the celebration of being able to thrive for 10 years, I decided to switch it up, and that became where I changed the food to seafood and a more light affair. So it you know introduced things like skate wing, halibut, and a variety of other seafoods. And in me initiating that, I didn't even realize that there was not one seafood restaurant in Harlem,
which is interesting,
which
now
was
that you
very
mention
interesting.
it.
So, I
I
mean,
mean, there's seafood takeout places and they
yes,
thrive.
there are a
But
lot of
you're
seafood
right.
takeout places, but there was not one place to actually sit down and dine and have a meal like any other restaurant in Harlem that was
You're
catering
absolutely
to
right, Adrian.
seafood.
I never really thought about that, but that was a niche.
It was a niche, and everyone else got wind, and now there are a couple, but this comes with being true to what you value,
Hmm.
and presenting it out to the world. And there has to be other people that feel and want the same things that you want, and just out of just general will, it comes to fruition.
Now, I know, I was raised until 5 in South Carolina. So I know as I travel different places, South Carolina, North Carolina, Charlotte, no, seafood is a big. Where are your origins from?
My origins are from South Carolina. I, I, I would be considered what you would call a Geechee baby.
Yeah.
My father's side is from Walterboro and Yamasee,
Uh huh.
and my mother's side is from Charleston and Utahville.
Wow. We keep talking, we'll probably become cousins. You know how that
I'm,
goes.
I'm sure of it.
you know, Marcus, you are you doing this now full time? Because I know you had a career. You would sing in different places and what have you. Um, is this just what you're doing now, or do you have other projects? Or tell us a little bit about what's happening with you.
Yeah. So obviously, when this started, this venture and this journey quickly started to take over. It was during the pandemic when we realized we were gonna reopen again. That's when things really escalated for me on the time commitment front, because I realized that speaking, piggybacking on what you were just talking about, or what Adrian was just mentioning, that we found that people really wanted this. They really wanted a place to come together. Obviously people were craving it during the pandemic, but before that, that people really wanted to come together around this music and around this vibe and in this space. And so um, the I needed, and this has always been, to me, it's always been bigger than me. This is about, again, it's about a legacy it's been here for over 100 years up in Harlem, and what's happening now organically. It's not about, look what I'm doing, or any one person. Everyone's given to the center, and it's really taken on a beautiful life of its own, which is really all I could have ever asked for. So I did have to, cut back on some of my touring and some of my gigs, but I kept writing and I kept preparing, for recording projects, and I still engaged in that front. I'm starting to turn more back to that now, especially since, getting, just going back to what you were talking about before with the addition of the piano, that, and which was, 100% a product of Stewart experiencing the vibe, combined
Mhm.
with his love of Harlem and Harlem history and jazz history. But he approached me the first night he was here. We had a long chat. He was mentioning all kinds of cats that he liked to listen to and had seen. And I remember we spent some time talking about Wyclef Gordon, and it's like a year ago, and just what it meant to him and his family. But he was really spent more time talking about what he experienced in the space, and he didn't say anything that night about wanted to do anything.
Mhm.
As Adrian mentioned, I just got an email randomly after night after night of me talking to crowds and being like, "We're trying to get a piano. We're trying to get a piano. If anyone's interested." And so but he felt everyone given to the center, and then like that vibe just rains down on everyone when that happens, and everyone feels it. And so he was unsolicited really, and and I always thank the crowds every night because they were all a part of that, right? Um, but now that the piano is here, and and words, gotten out, getting out, and folks are, it's definitely legitimized what we're doing, at at a higher level, and it's filling out the experience for everyone in a way that it's meeting, not only expectation, but it's meeting the hopes, that people have when they want to have a Harlem jazz experience, and they want to come visit and walk through and live and swim in that history. And so it's a milestone for the club and for the journey, and it's now it's simultaneously escalating everything now that we can do and need to do and want to do, because there's so many other subgenres that we want to represent and pay homage to, and then looking forward into the future and how jazz is changing and evolving too. So we want to touch on Afro-Cuban, Afro-Caribbean, like a lot of Afrocentric stuff, music of the diaspora, the Harlem Renaissance stride vibe. I just got to see yesterday the Harlem Renaissance exhibit at the Met, which I recommend everyone go and
That's a
check
great
out.
exhibit.
Beautiful exhibit, and I wish we could fill the room with some Aaron Douglases and some Archibald Motley. That would be amazing.
Oh, yeah.
But we'll call Stuart, see if he wants to. No, I'm kidding. But so at the same time, it also, now allows me a little bit of time to step back and be like, okay, refocus back a little bit, spend a little bit more time on my projects and preparing my next recordings, and and getting back out and going on the road and doing stuff. And there are a lot of people who are inspired by this concept too, that talk about wanting to have something like this in their hometown. So who knows? Maybe there'll be a Room 623 popping up in other.
Do some franchising, huh?
Who knows?
Who knows?
But it's it's a beautiful and very grateful pool I swim in, to be a part of this and to be able to. And I also sing here the first Sundays of the month. We have a series called the Sunday Singer Salon every Sunday at 6, and we feature different singers. So I sing here once a month. Get to feature a lot of my original stuff and new tunes I'm working on, and some of the beautiful musicians I get to work with as well.
So you have a little internal playroom, huh? So that you can experiment and do things. That's great. I mean that's like a dream come true. Now I know that you serve food at the different sets, because the space. We're going to talk a little bit more about the space, because I know that you can sit about 45 people, 50 people. So
Yeah.
it's a cozy location, but you do have to RSVP in order to get in. How many sets do you do a night? Do you do more than one, or how does that work?
Yeah. So right now we're celebrating this legacy on Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays, and there are different show times each night. But on average, I'll just say on Wednesday right now we've got one show, the Harlem Jazz Session, which is a concert up front and then a jam session afterwards. So it kind of feels like two sets, but it's one ticket price, gets you in the whole night. On Fridays and Sundays, we're featuring two different bands, three different shows. And so you can, and none of your listeners have to memorize any of this stuff. It's all on our website. But we do a 7 o'clock, 8:30, and then a 10 o'clock show on Fridays. On Friday, the late set, the 10 o'clock show, that was the first show that we ever started doing, and that was really the seed that I wanted to plant to let people know, hey, late night jazz in Harlem, which is why I connected with Dakota early on, and C. Kelly Wright and Paul Griffin and all the cats at Late Night Jazz, because I wanted to. I mean, like I say this all the time, but I really believe that Harlem works when Harlem works together, and so I wanted to reach out to the Harlem neighbors right away and say, hey, what are you doing? Here's what I'm thinking of doing. Here's what we are doing, and so. But that late night vibe was Fridays, 10 o'clock to 1. And, 1 o'clock was like, okay, now this is the new late night, for Harlem.
Yeah, actually, Mittens is doing a similar thing, which is right down the street. So,
it's so exciting because now
we do a night hopping,
Right.
Now, what about food? How late is your restaurant? It's a brunch now, though, is it?
Well, we serve brunch and we serve dinner items. So the concept is still seafood. It's still basically the same menu. It's about gaining a crowd that loves to brunch. So now, if you want to have brunch at 8 o'clock at night, you can. um, and the same return for if your party guest in your party doesn't want brunch.
Hmm.
So basically, our menu was kind of designed for it to be half brunch, half dinner, which means that you can have brunch and your guest at your table cannot and have dinner. So
Hmm.
we just make the option available, which is, if you will, uh, far more than a step up than a diner. Because if you go to a diner, of course, if you feel like having pancakes, then you would have pancakes. So we're trying to keep in line with that, although it's not a 24-hour kind of turnaround
Hmm.
because of the level of food that we're serving. It's not diner food at all.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, we close on the weekends. We close at 11 o'clock.
Hmm.
Then after hours, there are some like whole plates that we extend to guests when the kitchen is closed. So people are not quote unquote stranded, if you
Hmm.
will. If they're in the room and they need, some bites, then
Hmm.
those things are available. But 11 o'clock um, thereof, is when the kitchen closes. The time the kitchen closes.
And you and as obviously you have a menu that has fish. Is
Yes, we do seafood, which would include shellfish. So that would be your lobster, shrimp, oysters. We serve octopus. We serve um, sea bass. So there are a variety
Mhm.
of things that people can get. And of course, number one on the menu, catfish, for the whole 18 years that I've been here. So that is one of the continued legacies that still is thriving here.
Now, there's a growing number of vegetarians that are around. Do you have dishes that uh, can satisfy that palate?
Yes, yes, we do. So basically, we do have a couple of dishes that are on the menu that are vegan inspired. For the most part, we kind of like to give the vegan or vegetarian um, the option of actually even creating their own dish, if you will, because
Okay.
there's so many things that some people just don't eat, and kind of to try to deconstruct a meal uh, based on what they don't eat. It's kind of working backwards. So we're trying to work smarter in that sense that there may be vegans that don't eat mushrooms
Hmm.
or other things. So we have options. We have options of different grains. We have things like farro. We have wild rice. We have couscous.
Hmm.
So they can kind of pick and choose what they feel like for the day.
Well, that's and you have a concession in the room 623 also. Is that correct?
Yes, we do.
Hmm. Now, is it bring your own, or do you have alcoholic beverages and things like that, like
We
those speakeasies?
we have beverages. Yes.
Okay. So, well, again, and one of the things, let's give the address because I don't think we did that. We have to do that a couple of
Oh,
times. Give the
okay.
address
We're
and
located at 271 West 119th Street, and that's between St. Nicholas and Frederick Douglass Boulevard.
and um, and to get a reservation, you go to room623.com. Is that the
If
best way
Yes.
to get
Or you
reservation?
can or you can also, if you're gonna have dinner, you make a reservation on Open Table, or you can go to straight to the website, which is brunchharlem.com.
And when you say dinner, so you can have dinner and a show. Is that
Yes,
something
we do.
that
Yes, we
you
do
can do
have
based on
we
the
do have.
availability? So that
Yeah.
that that would be a great night out. A dinner and then see a show.
So two
That
birds with one stone.
Hey,
You can get that. You can get that info, Tony, on both websites. So if you go to room623.com and you're just looking for tickets, there's a ticket type for all the shows that says dinner and a show,
hmm
and you can purchase that ticket. You bundle it all together, so you end up saving a bunch of money. You get a 3-course meal plus the show tickets.
hmm
Uh, so you can get that anywhere you go. But and there's a link to both websites on both websites, so it's all you know. We like
Now,
where they are.
tell us a little bit about some of your plans with this new piano. How are are you inviting some of your colleagues who are professional piano players to come and do something different with this new instrument? What are some of the things that you see, Marcus, now that you have this whoosh come through? How are you going to use it? How are you going to make it work for itself?
Well, first, what I need to do is ask God for another night of the week. Um, we need we need 8 or 9 nights during the week, so we're working on that. I think Adrian's got a straight, direct line. I don't have that on speed dial yet. But so some of the genres I mentioned earlier, and the legacies that I want to really honor, the traditions that I want to honor. Will feature the piano in a spotlighted way, solo piano and piano duo, piano salon type series. To feature a Harlem Renaissance stride vibe is, and even like stretch into some of the ragtime stuff. I really want to feature the piano in that way,
hmm
and feature, a lot of pianists who excel in that and really gravitate towards a solo act. Um, you know, Without naming names, there are, especially up in Harlem, uh, a lot of um, time honored and beautiful musicians that, quite frankly, I have not reached out to when we were just an electric keyboard driven backline, because it's maybe perhaps for obvious reasons. A keyboard is a sufficient tool for a certain purpose.
hmm
When you're talking about the history and when you're talking about the sound and the level of talent that I want to showcase here and to have be a part of this experience, you can't be asking someone to play a solo piano on a keyboard. It's not a win for anyone. And so that's one thing we really want to do. Whether it's a midnight salon series, whether it's an earlier, I mean, we can sprinkle that, but to have a piano salon series would really be one of the next steps. I also want to. There's also the piano vocal duo vibe in the. If you look at these old, some of these other legacy clubs. There was an old club called Bradley's that would feature. It was known as a duo club, and you get a lot of these really beautiful and famous singers that were coming in, and we're talking like at the Ella Fitzgerald level, who were doing duo shows. Carmen McRae. These are and again with the solo piano singer vibe. Um, these are the types of musicians we want to reach out to, and then the other genres that I mentioned before that really uh, rely on this instrument in a beautiful way. We talk about music of the Harlem Renaissance 20s, the 20s 30s vibe. You talk about a lot of the Afro, the Afrocentric styles that really just expand and get beautifully filled out with an acoustic piano. So New Orleans, the New Orleans vibe. We want to go to town on that.
Okay.
There's a lot. I know
He got
Adrian's
a big list.
Adrian's like,
Yes.
yeah. So that's why I'm saying I need another night of the week.
Yeah,
But
you need a whole nother night of the week.
but we're working on it, and that's the thing. Like, none of this has been fast in that respect. I've never wanted to put the cart before the horse in that way, because we're going from the content inside out, and everything here is authentic, and you come here and it is exactly what it is. It's a very, as you first described it to me, it's a modern day speakeasy in that way. We don't have any of the kitschy kind of moving bookshelves that are doors. There's no password, and
That's because it's a real speaker.
because it's a real deal. Right.
They had to make theirs.
Right. So, you already feel it when, like you said, you walk down that alley, in between two buildings. You don't know where you are. We don't have a big facade outside. And that's great. That's everyone's journey. And they all come in and like, man, this place I couldn't find, but then I found it and it was great. And then people are telling the story. You know what I mean? And that's what this is about. Never know what's going to happen here at the club. And, this past Sunday, we had a group of like almost 20 women who showed up to celebrate a birthday. They had just come from the Harlem Renaissance exhibit at the Met, and they were all dressed up in 20s, like soup to nuts, and the heels and the dresses and the lace and everything. It was beautiful. And it was, had no idea.
Very authentic. Very authentic.
It was all organic.
Well, again, these are Harlem stories that you don't often hear. That's why I always salute Matt McCoy for developing and sacrificing to develop a network that allows for us to talk about the diaspora, but also things that when we look at history, as a co-founder of Harlem Week, when we started in 1974, the title was The Beginning of the Second Harlem Renaissance in 1974. What I have been able to do with the Urbanology show is for my experience and relationships over the years, is to bring the Second Harlem Renaissance alive, to have these types of interviews, to have guests who were part of it then, part of it now, and actually will be part of it in the future. And to be able to have this in a way so that when people start to talk about the Second Harlem Renaissance and how that was able to do whatever it will do over the years, it has done, they will be able to see a Marcus. They will be able to see an Adrian. They will be able to see those individuals that were the pioneers of this Second Harlem Renaissance, to bring it back again. We're in a community that is magical. And it happens in cycles, ever since the Dutch. I mean, it's just, the Great Harlem Chamber, 128 years old. So for some reason, that entity, that spirit, and I talk about this a lot, about the spirit and energy of how things work from a spiritual standpoint. There are things that are a lot bigger than us. We sometimes believe that it's us and our talent and our ability and all of those things. But to have this conversation now, this, in my view, was something that was planned long before I even thought that I would run into a Marcus. So for me to happen to go there, because as I said, I was out that night, and I'm a little, I'm 77 years young. I was 76. So I like to be able to do things, but I have learned to understand that I can't do the things that I used to do. I learned that a lot over the summer. However, something just told me that, well, this is 119th. I don't even know where that is. And I was being guided. And that's the way I look at things, and the way that we've kept in contact. And I've been to a number of places, but for some reason our connection maintained itself. And I believe that those things happen for a reason. And it's not something that, there is a saying that coincidence is a message from the mind of the universe. There's no such thing as a coincidence. And so I would like to, again, thank you guys for holding up that banner, late night jazz, the speakeasy concept, and creating those types of things that are coming back. We are in the Second Harlem Renaissance, and you're a part of the Second Harlem Renaissance. The only difference this time around is that we're able to record our narrative, and there won't be someone, which they probably will be, to talk about you, Marcus, and write about you, but people will be able to hear from you who you are and how you got to where you are, and the same with Adrian. And these are the things that I'm very grateful to be able to be in a position to do to be connected with uh, this entity, as well as some of the others that have allowed for me to, over the 50 or 60 years, to take advantage of this type of networking and media component, is to let people know about room 623. and I did not realize we always learn. You're never too old to learn. But I had not really thought about the fact that there were no seafood restaurants in Harlem. And I guess it's because the takeouts and all of those things, and you
Yeah.
know
No,
uh,
no, no. Yeah,
but
it's true.
very interesting, which is the beauty about life. If you get too old or too smart to learn something new, then you're in trouble. Thank you guys so much. Again, please give the website and the address, and which is, I guess, the website is the best way to make reservations and to do the booking. Is there a different site for the restaurant, or can you
Yes.
do everything?
So if you want to come to the show, you will go to room623.com. If you are looking to make a reservation for brunch or dinner, you can go to brunchharlem.com. And both sites have a tab that will take you to either one of the sites. So no matter which site you go on, you'll be able to get the full information between the restaurant as well as the jazz room 623 speakeasy.
Yeah, I think there was a book out. No matter where you go, that's where you are. Well, thank you. I appreciate you, and I hope that I have allowed for a number of people to develop a constituency that's a little larger than maybe what you have, and that would be great. And we'll have this on the Harlem Tourism Board uh, Facebook page, so we can direct people to it. And
Okay, wonderful.
it's been a pleasure.
It's been a
I look
pleasure. Thank
forward to seeing
you.
you. And one of the things I don't know how many people love Brazilian music, but I do. I mean, it's been just been one of those types of things that there's so many songs that I can think of as I was growing up. And every last Friday, I believe, you have a Brazilian night at the,
Yeah, every
you know,
last Friday is Brazil night. We celebrate two bands, and they cover the gamut. It's a lot of Brazilian jazz and samba and bossa nova, but a lot of also Brazilian, composers that are maybe to the
Mhm.
right or left of those genres as well. And Caetano Veloso, that type of more popular Brazilian artists. But it's a really beautiful night, and we get people who are like yourself, passionate about that music, and it really adds to the egalitarian mission of our booking concept to really cover the bases and make up for a severely imbalanced jazz calendars that we see across the country right now. And so we're trying to help balance that, and so this type of programming helps us with that as well. And we feature, as you mentioned earlier, we're stepping out of Black History Month into Women's History Month. I like to say every night we're open, we're celebrating Black history. And
All right.
with this beautiful owner here.
Hey, I just want to give one shout out
Sure, you can give
to,
two if you want.
to Samara Joy, because we actually had her come through our doors before she won her Grammy. So I am so proud to see that she was recognized for her talent.
And another shout out to the contributor of your piano.
Yeah,
Oh
Stuart
yes,
Holland.
yes.
You know,
We have
I
a
was
big
I
day. We have
wonder,
a big day
is
with
there a
her.
relationship with Joe Holland, who is a good friend who does a lot. Matter of fact, he may be on the show. He has a new book out, but nevertheless, as I said before, and Adrian, South Carolina,
Okay.
When we sit down, we'll talk about people who we probably know and don't want people to know that we know. But that's another story. But thank you both for taking the time to come out and be on the show. I will see you guys, and probably more. I won't outweigh my welcome, but I will probably be there a little bit more than you say. Well, yeah, he's here again. And I try to bring some people. Let the Harlem Tourism Board know.
We'll give you some keys if you need them.
Okay. Well, thank you both. I appreciate you both.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was great.
Good. Well, again, the room 623. I think that was a great way to close out. I'd like to say African History Month, and to begin with Women's History Month. Next week, we're looking to have a special show about women in finance, and I think that it would be a good way to kick off Women's History Month. So please stay tuned. And of course, I've talked to Yana Woodhouse, who is first woman on Wall Street trading, and Laura Avicentos Rogers, who has specialized in the CUNY and SUNY system for over 40 years, to talk about some of those things that you guys might want to know about, especially as I said before, women are beginning to, not beginning, they have always been in a certain type of position of leadership, but for some reason, men try to keep that a secret. But as they say, behind every great man, there's a good woman. So nevertheless, see you next week. Thank you for tuning in. Thank Soul City Network, Matt and Jasmine, and all of you guys for providing this platform to allow for you to see a different type of narrative, our narrative. Take care, and God willing, see you next week.
This is Kia Rogers, and you're listening to Urbanology with my dad, Tony Rogers, on WHCR 90.3 FM New York.
Urbanology.